testing positive for illicit substances, to the time she was kicked off a plane. Here's why Sha'Carri Richardson is the most controversial female sprinter. You've probably heard of Richardson, the lightning-fast track and field sensation who took America by storm. But what you don't know is that her journey's been marked by controversy right from the get-go. Richardson quickly became America's chosen favorite to win gold in the 2020 Tokyo Olympics because at just 21 years old, she amazed the world by winning the 100-meter dash at the U.S. trials in Oregon, which landed her a spot on Team USA. Not only did she absolutely destroy the competition, but she did it with undeniable style. She had both swag and speed, and it made her the fourth fastest woman in American history. Her performance was so impressive that everyone thought she had a guaranteed roster spot for the Tokyo Olympics, but everything came crashing down 3 days later when the young athlete tested positive for illicit substances, leading to major consequences for her Olympic dreams. This wild turn of events sent shockwaves throughout the world of sports, and her fans were left scratching their heads. Because how could someone so talented make such a controversial choice? It didn't make any sense. The drug test revealed Richardson had taken marijuana before her Olympic trials, and this meant she ran with THC in her body. It was more than enough to get her off the U.S. track and field roster before it was even finalized. And it looked like all her Olympic dreams were shattering before her very eyes. Yikes. Now you might be thinking, hey, it's just marijuana, what's the big deal? But this is where it gets interesting. While the substance is legal in some states like Oregon, the World Anti-Doping Agency still considers it a prohibited substance, which is why the athlete's record-breaking run was basically canceled. Poor Richardson ended up with a 30-day suspension, her title stripped from her, and she was left out of selection for the U.S. national team. The shocking news dominated the headlines because, let's face it, who doesn't love to hear about a little scandal right before the Olympics? The aftermath of Richardson's positive drug test created a world of controversy, with athletes, fans, and celebrities chiming in left, right, and center. While some argued that WADA rules felt outdated and needed a serious overhaul, others claimed that athletes should be held accountable too, regardless of their circumstances, talent, or fame. It also started a widespread dialogue, including a letter from the members of the House Oversight Committee to WADA, asking them to reconsider their policies about marijuana and to rethink why the substance was banned. In the meantime, Richardson, being the mature gal that she is, stepped up to acknowledge that she'd made a mistake. She even made a guest appearance on the Today Show to apologize and explain her actions. That's gotta take guts, right? She confessed that she'd used marijuana as a way to cope with her mother's recent death. Plus, the fact that athletes have to go through a whole other level of scrutiny compared to normal people, she must have had a really hard time. Imagine your every move being dissected under a microscope, every emotion that you show being put on display for the world to judge. That stuff isn't easy to deal with. There's no denying the fact that people expect athletes to be superheroes, but at the end of the day, aren't we all just human beings dealing with life's many curveballs? Richardson's case reminds us that even the brightest of talents can have the toughest of challenges, and that is what makes her human. When she couldn't wow us with her talent at the Tokyo Summer Olympics, she took the whole situation like a true winner, keeping her head held high. But with another sporting controversy quite similar to her own, she started to see things a little differently. Enter Kamila Valieva, a Russian figure skater with a heart medicine scandal right before the 2022 Beijing Winter Olympics. It turns out, Kamila tested positive for a substance called trimetazidine, which is used to treat chest pain. But despite this discovery, the Court of Arbitration for Sport decided to let her compete in the upcoming Olympics. Hold on a second. While Richardson had to face the music and miss her Olympic chance, Kamila simply got a free pass. According to CAS's Director General Matthew Reeb's statement, they gave Kamila the okay to compete because she's a minor and stopping her from going to the Olympics would cause her irreparable harm. The situation was very similar to that of Richardson's, except for one major difference. While Kamila was easily freed of controversy, Richardson was not, and that felt like a double standard slap in her face. The sprinter took to Twitter to voice her concerns, asking if she could get a solid answer on the difference between Kamila's situation and hers. Sha'Carri was naturally upset and claimed, "The only difference I see is I'm a black young lady." She also reminded her followers that while she was immediately suspended following her positive test and her name and talent were slaughtered in the process, Kamila's case came to light several months later and she was still allowed to compete. Obviously, Richardson felt that she had been treated very unfairly, especially considering that her mother had also died at the time. But she never got a free pass. With all those rage-filled tweets, fans began to wonder if Camila walking free had Richardson going through a downward spiral, because there were even more instances that pointed toward their speculations. After she took time off from her controversial disqualification from the 2020 Olympics, Sha'Carri was back the following year to strut her stuff at the Prefontaine Classic. But the event turned out to be less than she had anticipated. It's not that she didn't win, it's the fact that the loss was so devastating since she finished last at 9th place. Many fans were quick to judge her race and even commented that her gold medal contention days were over because she was losing to runners that she'd beaten before. You could clearly tell that the crowd was basically done with her, and it was an embarrassing letdown for Richardson. She was scheduled to run in the 200-meter dash, but after her defeat, she withdrew from the event. Despite her outward embarrassment, Richardson stunned her fans on social media when she was caught in 4K, apparently taking shots at some of the race winners. The track star happened to like a tweet where someone claimed that one of the Jamaican winners looked like Lil Wayne. The tweet was obviously in poor taste, and Richardson was slammed for her choice, with many feeling that she was acting bitter about her embarrassing loss. And it's not just Twitter where she's been criticized for putting her foot in her mouth. She messed up on Instagram too. A fellow athlete, Allison Felix, went on Jimmy Kimmel's show and spoke about Sha'Carri, but said the nicest things. She opened up about how, after her mother's passing, Richardson needed all the support she could get from her peers. Felix even gave Richardson props for bringing a bucket load of attention to the sport, which is pretty helpful if you ask me. But instead of appreciating her colleagues' kind words, Richardson completely disregarded them. She took to Instagram to post a story and ranted about how encouraging words on TV aren't real. Obviously, it was a calculated dig at Felix, and fans weren't having it. Unfortunately, this wasn't the last of her controversies either. In 2023, the popular U.S. sprinter was kicked off of an American Airlines flight after finding herself in a bit of a situation with a flight attendant. According to Richardson herself, a flight attendant whom she called John disrespected her while she was on the phone right before takeoff. She documented the whole encounter and shared 2 videos to her Instagram where she alleged that she and a fan were threatened on the flight. The encounter began with the flight attendant asking her to end a phone call, which she did, but the drama escalated when Richardson felt harassed and pressed that record button to defend herself. The attendant asked her to stop recording, and the atmosphere got extremely heated. Richardson also confronted several passengers until someone informed her she was being asked to leave the flight. Richardson asked the employee why she was being told to leave, only to be informed that it was the captain's call. She was eventually escorted off the plane, but the worst part was that other passengers began to applaud as she exited. The series of videos posted to her Instagram had fans incredibly worried for her mental health. But whether you love her or hate her, one thing's for sure, she's definitely got the world talking. So there you have it. From the time she was kicked off a plane to testing positive for illicit substances, that's why Sha'Carri Richardson is the most controversial female sprinter.